I'm Hamid Akbari, CEO of Blanc Labs, and we put AI and automation in production for Canadian banks and lenders. Today's topic over the next 30 minutes will be the automated bank. But before we get started, there's a tension that running through everything we discussed today, and that's, does the automated bank actually just reduce the cost of servicing customers, or does it also improve the customer experience? So we're going to deep dive into that over the next 30 minutes on top of what is in pilot, what's in production. Now, I have an exciting, amazing panel for you here. Andras, head of everyday banking at BMO, and millions of people get the customer experience that running through what his team is building, essentially. And then I have Geoff here, adjacent vertical, insurance. Call it automated insurance. And then we have Gom here, Vice President of Symcor, sitting across multiple banks. So she sees mega trends that no single bank executive would see. Now, let's set the scene initially with what the automated banks look like, actually. What does the experience of automated bank look like? Let's start with Andras with you. And I know they have built a full stack of AI, from the credit coach to the next offer to personal insight to my financial progress. You have a ton over there. We can deep dive later. But for now, give us a sense of what does the customer experience look like, at least for BMO customers, from perspective of AI and automation.
Sure. So first, let me just define what automated bank is now versus what it was maybe 18 months ago. So if I define automated bank now, it is about anticipation over reaction. That is the oversimplified definition. Anticipation over reaction, which is automated, streamlined, dynamic customer journeys with no manual intervention. Dynamic customer needs are anticipated, and we proactively reach out to customers. And then when it comes to the actual experience, it is about helping the customers navigate through the experiences without any complexities. Okay, so that is the definition now. That's the standard that we uphold. And then if you go back 18 months ago, automated bank or automation was more about, let's get rid of manual intervention. Let's have end-to-end, straight-through processing. So it's a very basic way of defining automation. There is personalization, or there was personalization, but personalization is more about rules-based. Let's use static data. Let's come up with some rules and then personalize the experience accordingly. So we moved to this new definition. And really the way we think about it is that as we think about these journeys and experiences, it's about using AI as a platform and technology to orchestrate all this in an intelligent way. And one of the ways to think about this is what we want to become as a bank serving millions of customers. We want to become a companion to customers. As much as we would like to think as a big five bank that, hey, customers are dying to get all our products all the time. Let's face it, nobody's dying to get a mortgage, right? They think about life stages. They think about milestones that they want to hit in life. And then they look at a financial services partner, a large bank, and say, you know what, I need a solution. I want you to come alongside me and help me go through this life stage, hit this milestone in a way that it's frictionless. And I'm saying this because that's how we think about our role, a companion to customers. And we purposefully and thoughtfully use the language that we want to help customers make real financial progress. Now, for some, this may sound like a marketing lingo, but really what this means is that we want to act as a companion. We want to be that first choice, and we want customers to think about us first and anticipate their needs, anticipate the milestones, and give them solutions versus just being, that provider that offers products, right? So that's our definition, and certainly we can unpack that more, but that's how we kind of elevated the definition of automated bank, and that's the standard that we uphold.
Amazing. Automated banks looks efficient, but also that looks a little bit cold. So I'm glad you actually brought up the companionship, that you look at AI more than cold automation here in terms of building relationship. Now, if we move to you, Geoff, what does automated insurance look like?
For sure. So I should also premise, so kind of similar to the last panel, insurance, we don't do a ton of direct-to-customer cross-sell in that context. So for us, it's more about actually helping what we're selling is our experience. We're selling that we can be embedded. It's easy to do business with us. We are selling that when you're a customer, whether you are on our have a health and dental product or a travel product, that we're helping you through the journey. I'm the head of health and travel for all of our individually purchased products. So I'll kind of give a quick example on each side. On the health side, nobody really, knows what they're covered for, really. No one, knows how to do the prior auth for their Ozempic. Nobody knows how to, even like interact, submit claims. And so we think of helping our customers with automation through like automated nudges and things of that nature to actually provide them guidance on how to even engage with us. We want you to actually use the products and get the value that you're paying for. And that's actually what we sell through our third-party distribution networks to actually say, well, send your customers here because we actually provide your customers the best experience. Same thing on the travel side. Today, travel insurance is very transactional. You think about, hey, I bought it because I had to, and there's a lot going on in the world, and I'm a little bit worried. And so that's actually an opportunity for us to be actually providing that advice and that guidance to customers that when they're traveling somewhere and something happens, how can we create the automated experiences that actually are relevant to what you're doing in that moment, provide you advice and guidance so that you can travel with confidence. And so both of those can take very different flavors depending on the journey that you're in. But for us, that is our core focus. Of course, there's automating claims. Of course, there's being faster on our underwriting. There's a whole realm of the back office element of this as well, but I'll stop there for now.
So there was a lot of, you also kind of put emphasis on the same thing Andras said, in the sense there's a lot of emphasis of companionship using AI to do actually elevate that. Now, moving up to you, you see probably very different trends because across the banks. Tell us, pick something else or the same in terms of what type of AI automation you see in this industry.
And so, Symcor, we are a little less sexy than some of the things you're talking about here, but we provide essential platforms, essential utilities to banks and insurers. And so that means really digging into and being pragmatic about the processes that occur in the back end, automating that as much as possible, incorporating AI where it makes sense in order to help drive that end customer experience. So what we're seeing is that where we can be very rules-based with respect to the creation of communications that go out to that end customer. In fact, in some cases, you do need to be rules-based because these communications are regulated and they need to be compliant. But there is a degree of AI that you can build into handling I'd say the value-add content associated with those communications that are going out. And there is a degree of AI that you can incorporate into the inbound communications that we're processing if we take an insurance claim scenario specifically. Any sort of information, documents that customers are providing tied to claims, there can be a degree of AI built into that in order to understand it and pass off sort of synthesized content to the to the claims adjuster. So there's that piece of it, but a lot of it is, once you start thinking about the back end and the services that Symcor provides, it's very much automated from a workflow perspective, rules-based with, some slight injections of AI at the moment. I foresee that changing.
Fantastic. And let's go a little bit deeper around that as well. As I said, looks less sexy, but like a document, for example. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly important because a lot of plumbing for the banks and insurance require a lot of document workflow here, right? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we have simple things like OCR, and then we have rule-based machine learning, does a lot of heavy lifting, and now we have LLMs. Not at deterministic, but they not only they process it, but they can understand it, obviously augmented by the classic machine learning and so forth. Bring it back full circle, looks not sexy, but nevertheless, like the document and forms are a very integral part of banking and
Absolutely.
Insurance essentially, right? Yes. So how does it improve the customer experience? Definitely an efficiency side, no question around that, but also how does it elevate the customer experience about what you're doing?
For sure. Any sort of document-heavy process that touches the customer is friction for the customer, friction for the organization as well. If you think to the most sort of legacy physical documents, having a customer procure physical documents, sending those in and having your teams internally process physical documents is a little bit ridiculous, but happens a lot. And so taking that, moving that to the digital submission of documents makes it easier for sure. The synthesizing of those digital documents, the sort of validation and verification of those physical documents are things that we are looking at from a incorporation of AI perspective and being able to hand that off to the internal operations team. As we move forward, what we're focused on is actually data. Right? Forget the documents, but actually getting consent from customers and having that drive the securing of data to facilitate the processes. Yes, less AI enabled, but definitely very much customer experience focused in terms of making it easy for the customer and focused on operational efficiency internally.
Now bring it back to AI in, like what you are doing and your team is doing. You build a bunch of AI stacks that is not pilot anymore. It's live at production scale. There is my financial progress, personalized insight, the career coach, the next best offer. Can you pick just one that you're proud of? Or maybe retreat. Probably proud of everything you've done. But pick one, just given the time limit, pick one of them and a little bit unpack for the audience, like what does the AI do under the hood and what does it mean for the customer, actually?
Sure. So I think you were right. I mean, there's so many things we're proud of. So I'm going to just cherry pick, but let me just say this. Automation and amazing customer journeys, AI is just the technology that enables, but automation and customer journeys start with really acting as a companion to consumers, as I said before, and knowing a lot about consumers. So I'll give you one example. One of the examples that we got amazing adoption and a value-add service that got amazing traction. So as everybody knows, all the banks, they offer a service within their mobile app or online banking where you can check your credit score and see how you're doing. And that's all great and wonderful, and that's valuable. But last year, we made a decision to really take things to the next level and really create a value-add service which we branded and named Credit Coach, where we act as that companion and help customers plan for, understand their borrowing needs, whatever those may be, and run different scenarios, make it extremely intuitive. Also put emphasis on financial literacy, because let's face it, there are segments out there where that's a need. And we launched this tool, and those of you who are BMO customers, hopefully many of you have probably experienced this. Those of you who haven't, I'm sure you will join BMO to experience it. But we saw amazing adoption. Like, it was through the roof in terms of customers engaging with this tool, spending a lot of time in the tool, not because the experience was not great, but more so because there's so much value it adds. And what we saw was very interesting, because essentially if you give all this intelligence to consumers, you would expect them to, sign up for more products. That is great, and certainly that's not a bad thing. But what we saw is customers using their credit products in a more prudent way, or at least there's encouraging early indicators. That's number one. And then what we also saw is that people are more thoughtful about savings as well, which you wouldn't necessarily expect, from a credit-focused value-add service. And that's very interesting, because that is an example where you really went above and beyond, and you really checked the box in terms of understanding what customers need and having a holistic understanding of their needs and milestones and everything else. And that is just one example of many, because if we add to that, the tremendous progress that we made in terms of just AI technology-enabled next best offer strategies and platforms, we've seen tremendous traction there as well. And really the promise there is, very often, some people may think about next best offer is this tool that will help you identify those customers that have a higher likelihood to respond and higher propensity, so we should go after them, and then we're gonna just generate sales. That's all great and wonderful, but our definition of next best offer is acting as a companion, coming alongside that customer, extend offers and solutions, I should say, that will contribute to that customer's financial well-being and would help that customer, medium term and long term, make real financial progress. Again, it's the long-term view, and the reason why that long-term view is important is because you can use these tools to just like sell more, you can have that short-term view, but at the end of the day, we are in the business of trust. This is a business of trust, financial services, whether you're a big bank or a fintech, and that trust is just becoming increasingly important as we think about, you know, AI emerging, new technologies emerging. Trust is just more and more important. So these are just a few examples of many how we, again, use the technology, come alongside the customer, acted as a companion to build and elevate trust.
So that's very interesting you're saying this. I spend a lot of time with bank executives, and bank executives, obviously, especially retail side, always talk about the primacy, right? Customer primacy and deepening relation with the customer. But behind the scene, we look at metrics, it usually means like cross-sell, upsell, dollars. But you're saying what you're actually trying to achieve primarily is guidance and advice instead of customers, and those will be the natural side of like side benefit versus going for like that sales engine that sell essentially kind of a thing, and that you're leveraging AI to make it softer toward the companion relationship building to build deepening and primacy. And the financial outcome is like side benefit versus the prime focus.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, you know, the way I would think about this is the traditional definition of primacy is customers who have the most day-to-day products from you, right? So their income would come to your checking account. They would perform the recurring transactions from that account, bill payments, those kind of things, maybe a credit card. Like that was the definition of primacy. That is all great and wonderful, but I think what we've done at BMO and the way we think about this is the evolved definition of primacy is where you are that first choice. You are that first choice for the next milestone that they want to hit and for the next need that emerges. It is not just about the transactional, you know, share wallet and everything else. It's about being that first choice. And again, you can become that first choice if you act like a companion. So certainly that's exactly what you said. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
And Geoff, if you move to insurance, and insurance claims are notoriously hard to properly automate, can you share an example? And I know when we were talking before the session, you talked about travel companion a lot more here, but can you share an example for the audience?
Yeah, for sure. So we've been on our automation journey on the claim side for several years now. We started largely on the group benefits side, where we have a huge volume of health and dental claims, and a lot of which are submitted digitally. We kind of leapfrogged right to AI on this in many cases. Like there's so many of the documents, the receipts, the validation of it. It's all different forms, weird shadows, fraud. And so actually being able to just go straight to AI to ingest those documents in a very real way and actually determine, like, is it real? What kind of claim is it? Extract the information out of it, plug it into the downstream claim systems. That was a huge accelerant for us in being able to actually process claims faster. And so we've seen that hugely on the group side, and for the individual side, we're actually now essentially our strategy is use the mother or fathership or whatever term they used last time to say how do we use the big machinery that we've invested a ton of money in on our group side to create essentially equal or better experiences on our individual platforms. So for us, there's a kind of underlying technology strategy that goes along with that.
Just a quick question for you, Geoff. In terms of the scope, have you built into the scope of validation, review of documents? Have you built in third-party data sources as well as verification validation points?
Yes, in some cases, depending on the type of claim. And so I should also say, like, a lot of our claims also come from directly from providers. So anytime a claim comes directly from a provider, in a sense, that's a way of them validating it or saying it's okay, with its own, of course, fraud detection of the provider itself. But so there is a validation. And then in other cases, like travel, you would want to do things like make sure that flight actually existed. So there's all sorts of kind of connectivity that you would need to build along the way to get the best outcome.
Awesome.
So let's now shift gear for a moment to the future. Let's think about 18 months down the road, 24 months down the road. We in the tech believe that the future will be even agentic, even headless. Now, obviously, adoption is going to vary industry by industry. Financial services typically is not the first adopter, but everyone in the industry is thinking about the future at this stage. Now, starting with you, Andras, looking at the future as a thought leader here, not necessarily BMO, like you may or may not share what BMO is doing, but if taking a step back, broadly look at the horizon for next 18 to 24 months, right? The amazing product that you've described are primarily using classic machine learning in a linear way and in a deterministic, not linear, but deterministic way to derive outcome. But if you think about the future, like again, we believe that there'll be a lot of almost like AI that is autonomous, generative, multi-step. How do you see, and of course it's going to markedly vary industry by industry and vertical and sub-vertical, that's not going to be exactly the same. But if you think about the future, what do you see for the future in 18 to 24 months with the advance of generative AI and agentic AI?
Good question, and maybe if you have this panel 2 years from now, we can check if I was right or wrong, but maybe just a few thoughts. So I'll give you a couple of examples on servicing, planning, and maybe a couple of other examples as well. So let's look at servicing. So we've put a lot of emphasis on using AI tools to equip our agents, individuals who have interaction with our customers to be able to get access to information better, relay that information better to the customer. We have something that we call Lumi Assistant, and it's been an amazing tool just increasing productivity, making sure that servicing experience is more consistent. So that is going really well, and I just wanted to share that because that's the starting point as to how we think about the future. And if I think about 18 months from now, year, 2 years from now, what I would say is I would see AI moving into the territory of being able to solve still transactional, but more complex customer problems for which right now the customer still need to raise their hand and reach out and initiate the process, right? You think about card disputes, for example, you think about a bunch of other account management type activities. I would certainly like to see AI penetrating into that space and as a rolled out use case and really just improving the customer experience even further. So that's one example. On the planning side, what I would say is that at BMO, we certainly take a pride in, I mentioned a couple of amazing value add tools. One that I haven't touched on in greater detail is what we call My Financial Progress, which is this phenomenal self-serve digital planning tool that customers has access to, and it's really phenomenal because it takes into account all their holdings, even beyond what they have with us. It takes into account their goals, milestones that they want to hit, and again, we've seen great adoption. But where I see this tool evolving is the planning piece of it becoming more dynamic. And the reason why I'm saying that is because everybody does planning, or many of us do financial planning, but you do that at a certain point in time. But we have to be flexible, we have to be dynamic. Things may change 5 years from now, so you want to go back to your plan and do another planning. And I just see AI penetrating into this space as well and enabling more dynamic way of planning, and these self-service tools, which are already getting great traction, becoming even more anticipatory and just predicting needs and making recommendations and so forth. So that's the second one. But I also want to touch on maybe a couple of areas where there's a belief that AI may be this holy grail and would really change things and take over the world, where I have the conviction that that may not happen. And one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is because if you think about financial services, I made this point that we are in the business of trust and that human interaction is still very important. And at BMO, we take pride in the fact that we want to be at the forefront of digital innovation. And obviously, there's a lot of external validation, all the awards, but beyond that, most importantly, customer adoption and so forth. We want to be among the first, and we want to be pioneers in terms of digital features, capabilities, the use of AI, and everything else. But we cannot forget that the human interaction still matters. And at BMO, that's really core to our brand, that we want to be at the forefront in innovation, but we also want to be brilliant at the basics of that human interaction. And a very specific example I can give you is that there's a number of different customer experiences or needs where you do need that human interaction. You think about hardship programs on the borrowing side. You think about complex wealth management or legacy planning, right? Like those are all experiences, consumer needs. We have solutions and products for that where AI, I would have a hard time believing that AI will take over the process and the whole process would be automated end to end, because the human interaction is just so important, and I see that remaining important for sure.
Absolutely. And Geoff, looking into you, what do you see as, if you think of an art of possible of the future of the travel or travel insurance in the next 18 to 24 months?
Yeah, so it's funny, we have the term companion. So we've been talking a lot about what does it mean to be a travel companion. And so in that context, right, you can imagine you've purchased your insurance, we know where you're going, hey, here's a packing list for Mexico, right? Like there could be just little nudges along the way that actually, could be, just an interesting, hey, here's something cool, here's something you didn't know, maybe somewhere a site to see, while at the same time layering in somewhat kind of operational but important elements, like if you get in trouble, like did you, I would never say it this way, but like, did you know the Mexican front desk is getting paid a commission to send you to a certain hospital? Maybe you should reach out to us on this free eSIM that we're going to give you on WhatsApp, and we'll tell you the best course of action, or give you telemedicine kind of support. Or if there's an event, you don't, I could count, it takes two hands to count the number of events over the last 9 months, to say like, okay, in that specific event, here's what you should do. And we could actually use the power of our experts that are constantly researching and evaluating certain scenarios and delivering that to you in your pocket, rather than today everyone kind of going and trying to Google and figure out what's going on. And then of course, when you come home, I think that there's room to continue that experience and say, congratulate, welcome home. Hope you had a great trip. And then, actually tee up, like, how do you want to engage with us again in the future? I think there's also really creative things that you could do to kind of delight the customers in that moment. I am going to keep some stuff to myself, but I think there's a lot of stuff you could do as the moment you start thinking about that as a whole journey, and not just hey, you bought our insurance, call us if you need us.
Thank you. And Con, what do you think about the future of, the future in the next 18 to 24 months? Again, you sit across the bank in the industry versus within just one single bank. For example, do you see agents live in a bank? We know that it's notorious high to get LLM live in production and behave in a deterministic way and so forth. So what is your view of what the future will look like in 18 to 24 months down the road?
Well, I'm not a magician. However,
yes.
I'll put a sort of sci-fi view on all of this. What's the reality of like every individual here having your own agent that's fully versed in your life? And all of these institutions have their agents within their operations, have APIs for your agent to access the information they want, so they can build the itinerary they want based on what they've done in the past 5 years, what they liked and didn't like from the things they did in the past 5 years, and then pull in information from the respective organizations in order to fund the trip properly, plan the trip properly, get the right insurance, all that good stuff. Don't know. That could be.
That could be, obviously. And with that, maybe there is just time for like a question or two from the audience. If anyone has a question. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for all your commentary. It's very technical, it's very forward-looking, and I love the example about how people have been getting better with their behaviors, once they had insights from the app, with their saving and their credit and all that. So with all that tech and the AI and this automation and stuff, a bit on the back end, could you comment a little bit about what you've seen change in your hiring and your workforce, maybe versus like a year ago, to, again, if you want to, look forward to what it could look like 18 or 24 months from now, what skills you're looking for? Are you having trouble towards certain positions, or just everything with that workforce? Are you having any trouble, workforce related trouble? It's just a high level kind of first thing that comes to your mind, just thinking about those things.
I can start. The first thing that comes to my mind when you say workforce trouble is nothing bothers me more when I get an obviously AI generated response that was to a question I asked that obviously was missing a whole bunch of actual thoughtful things. And it's like, so my immediate reaction when I get that, quite honestly, is, okay, so if I'm just sending it to you, you're sending me an AI response. I have to vet the AI response and then send you the feedback. Why are you in this equation? And so I think that there's going to be a feeling out moment where we have to encourage the teams to use AI, encourage them to get the value out of it, while not losing the critical thinking part of it. That is why that they're there in the first place. And honestly, I actually think that is going to be a feeling out process. It's going to take a bit of time. They're going to try it. You don't want to shut them down to immediately. At the same time, you want to help them see why actually what I would have needed in this is X, Y, Z, and I kind of expect that next time. And then I think that will evolve over time.
So maybe just to add to what Geoff said. So hiring is important. I would also think about the importance of bringing your existing employee base on this journey, because it's always much bigger. You think about a big bank, we have tens and tens of thousands of employees. And at BMO, it's table stakes. You have to be AI tool savvy for your individual productivity. There's no question about that. And it's interesting because for frontline, you have to drive adoption, and it takes a journey. Some companies mandate it, some other companies are more flexible and they lead from the front, but they still want to push adoption. And one of the ways how we've been successful in terms of driving that adoption is, when frontline they have questions, and often naturally what they used to do is they went to their supervisor, the branch manager, maybe the supervisor in the call center. And at BMO, many of the branch managers and supervisors, what they did is that they actually put a sign on their door or the cube or whatever saying, well, before you come to me, have you asked Lumi Assistant? That's our internal AI tool. And that's important because those tools are phenomenal. And once you embrace it, just the information that you can get access to and how quickly you can get access to it and how quickly you see the benefit of your increased productivity is just phenomenal. So I just wanted to call that out because that's important. The other piece that's important is as you think about the use of AI technology for large-scale tech projects or even smaller tech projects, the way we deploy projects, the speed at which we deploy initiatives, new product services is just different. In other words, it's way faster. And really what it means is that on the business side, you own a P&L, you own a business, you are the internal customer of these teams. You have to have the technical acumen, you have to speak the same language, and you have to understand how your business will be impacted as a result of the technology, and the way of deploying projects is changing. So lots of exciting stuff, but we've been making great strides on this journey, but not at the end of job, and everybody's on this same journey as well with us.
So ultimately, in summary, it's that AI is not going to take your job, it's the person who knows AI that's going to take the job. So to Geoff's point, there's always going to be a need for people who understand the tool and can then bring that critical thinking, the human element as it may be,